Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Social Jello with Angelo. I am here with Ron Estellar, a reoccurring guest, almost co-host of the show. I've had him here quite a bit. Today, why am I doing this episode? You saw the title. It's Ron Estellar's Gaylord Method Black Belt Requirements. Kind of a mouthful. Someone asked me, I always have someone come in the comments and say all kinds of stuff. I usually ignore most of it, unless it's positive. But for my own psychological well-being, I ignore most of it. But every so once in a while, they do have a few interesting questions, and one of them was on the Emperado method series that I did. I have a Kajukembo series, so if you guys are interested, girls and guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put a link here of the playlist for that. But there's a playlist that I'm slowly putting together. I have on the back burner depending on how things are going, where I break down different requirements from different methods. And I say this even in the beginning of that episode. It's very, very rare that in the beginning of one of these episodes, I say, these are the Kajukembo requirements. I am very wary of saying that. Because if you don't know what Kajukembo is, at the end of this episode, you can fast forward to the end. There's a link. What is Kajukembo? Me and Ron. He's on that episode with also John Hackelman, Chuck Liddell's coach, and they break down what this is, so I don't have to go into a long spiel of what that is. So most of you, this is your first episode, maybe check out that episode first because it'll make this episode make more sense. If not, you can still stick around. And if you've heard of Kajukembo, and if you haven't heard of Kajukembo, you have an idea of what Ron expects out of a black belt. If you walk into Ron's school and you say, I want a black belt, I don't know if anybody does that anymore, but they do. Do they still do that?
I still had it.
Okay, so it's still happening. Walk in, I want a black belt. So what do I need to do? What's the requirement?
Well, first of all, what we're going to talk about are just my requirements, because the KAA has many different schools and each school has their own requirements. That being said, Kelly Gaylord and the board of directors are currently working on guidelines. Notice I said guidelines, not requirements. Because, everybody, nobody's going to tell me who I could promote. And even at that, they're keeping it at each individual school is on their own all the way through black belt level. And then they're working on it. Now, they're going to take a lot of the higher requirements or the higher ranks. They're also working and looking at the KSDI BOA requirements. They're working. Kelly is working hand in hand and very closely with KSDI and her other legacy sisters, Ramos's daughter, Habuna's daughter. So they've gotten together. These are the girls that have left with their father's legacies. So each one of them has a little bit to do with their own association, as it should. That's their father, right? So anyway, getting to my requirements, guess I'm going to say everything. Because that's what it's required for me. 21 grab arts, 21 punching attacks. We have 4 kata, 15 pin on, and 6 salam sets. Now, me personally, I don't do all 6 of the salam sets. I only do 4 of them. So I only require those 4. And even at that, I probably have only tested on 2 of them, 2 or maybe 3 in the last few black belt tests that I've had. Now, to go on the family tree, for me, you have to be at least a first degree. I don't give a black belt under 18. It might be close, like 17 and a half, just before they go to college. That's probably the latest that I would, or the earliest that I would do it. Simply because Gaylord method is still the punch in. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing that in front of my parents. My wife gets on me every single time. And by doing more, by studying the body and I mean, I was a health science major. I've had a lot of anatomy, physiology, and I figured out, hey, you can rupture an aorta doing that, so don't do that, just because it's tradition. You can go up there light or whatever. But yeah, as I get older, I get softer, I guess.
I'm sure I think some of your older students are yelling right now. How dare you?
Oh yeah, I've seen Eric go, where is my instructor? What have you done with him? But I was mean to the kids the other day, and I say all the time, sorry, I'm not sorry for yelling at you today, because I yell a lot. I get in trouble from my wife all the time for yelling. You should have seen me during COVID. That was horrible. Laugh, your other laughed. And then my wife, be nice. That's a whole nother story.
That's a whole other podcast.
Now, because of my instructor, Jim Orez, everything that I just mentioned, and then 50 kicks, 50 punches, 50 blocks. So each one of those, right and left side. So we do our tricks on right and left side. We do our forms right and left side, except for the salum sets. So all our pin-ons, because the kata are already right and left side. So all the pin-ons are done right and left side. So yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, that's easy. So I have a lot of black belts that have not made it on my family tree. And I feel really bad about that, because some of these kids, I put 7, 8, 9, 10 years worth of work into them, and they didn't make it through their student black. They didn't test for their first. So, like I said, as I'm getting softer, I'm thinking, well, do I add them to the tree? I put a lot of work into those kids, and they gave me a lot of themselves. A lot of them started at 4, 5, and 6, and just because they left it, for college, and didn't train for me, maybe their senior year where they were doing other sports, it happens. But they knew all their curriculum, or they wouldn't have gotten a student black. They know all their curriculum, or they wouldn't have gotten a junior black. And I've only done a handful of junior blacks. Those are the ones that started at 3 or 4. And they're now, 14, What do? They're 14, they know everything, other than they can't take the punch and they're not mature. So I give them a couple more years, student black for a year. If they're an adult, sometimes I'll take them straight from brown to first degree, but usually I'll, because to me, the number one requirement is loyalty. Pure and simple. You got to be loyal, not just loyal to me. I mean, loyal to the school, loyal to the other kids. You got to be loyal, not to me, to the kids, loyal to the school. Come help out and help the kids. That's a big part of being one of my black belts, is giving that back, which was given to them. That I hope will always be my personal legacy, is I made great instructors, but none of them went up on their own, very many, except for John that moved to Japan, and Mickey's on his own, but he doesn't really teach Kajukembo, as proud of him as I am, he's pretty much strictly boxing at this point, and that's fine. I got another one of my black belts that's exclusively BJJ now, although he ended up getting a 3rd degree in Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu first. So he has he's legit 2 system black belt. And I think he's a brown belt right now in BJJ. So, I, like all of them, we're all proud of our kids, but mine are spread to the 4 winds. So I don't have very many left at home helping me at this point.
So let's go into some, what's the word I'm looking for? Not politics. Let's go into some details here, because I'm gonna share for this one. We're doing a share screen. Hello everyone. You can see my background. Oh, you can see my office. Oh, awful.
Yeah, I just saw that the other day.
So yeah. For any of you wondering about Kajukembo, Philip Julinas just made an announcement on the Kajukembo family tree with some details. This is the first call for all Kajukembo black belts who also have a down line of black belts, people they promoted and recognized at first degree or higher. So first degree, there it is. To contribute those names to be added to the official Kajukembo family tree being compiled by SGN Philippines. These names will be vetted, spell checked, and their year of promotion will be verified. Last year was the first official Kajukembo family tree. Let it be the first of many. Cijo Emperado assigned me this job in 1988. Let's bring it into the 21st century. I released the first official one last year in 2023. The tree measures 36 inches vertically by 68 inches horizontally. It's pretty big, so make sure you have space for it. We will expand it as the need appears. GM Glenn Fetticelli has graciously offered his help us here. Together, we hope to have something that we can hold up and say, this is us, GMs Philip Chilinas and Glenn Fetticelli. So, in case anybody's wondering about how that works, how those requirements work, that's straight what the post said, first degree. And you can contact Philip Chilinas if you qualify, if there are those requirements satisfy your list. Now, how many piñons? You mentioned it real quick. I'm just going to write it down.
Yes.
How many piñons?
We have 4 pinon.
4.
4.
4.
Now, what the actual Japanese names for these pinons are, I don't know. I've never seen them anywhere. I don't know where they came from. And my Juarez lineage is the only one out of us Gaylord people that do it. So I think, I may be wrong. So if somebody out there is more senior in KA than I am and know where they came from, please, give a little thing at the bottom and let us know. But as far, I don't know where they came from, and I've scoured the internet trying to find something that's even close and never have.
Me and Mitch talked about that. And I'll have to dig the video and maybe put a link. If I can't find it, sorry, I'll say it right now. Me and Mitch talked about that. And,
next time you get together with John Hoylo.
Yeah. So here, I can tell you my personal experience. From my personal experience, me and John have jumped in and looked at the Palama sets I do. We call them Palama sets, the branch I'm from, and the Pinon sets he does. And there's just small, tiny variations, but not much. If me and John do it right next to each other, you can tell where you have a different flavor, as they like to put it with the Hawaiian stuff. But it essentially, we move in the same directions. We do very similar. Maybe he'll do an extra block, or I'll do a block in a different direction, but it's very similar in its concept. Our number 4 is all of the blocks and strikes in one position. I looked at his number 4 recently. It's all the blocks and strikes in one position. It looks very similar. And then I'll tell you one more thing. I'm not a historian, and for any people flipping out in the comments right now, I've also noticed, and I can say for my branch, that my instructor came from the She's Well and About branch. She's Well and About had a very good relationship with Cijo, because Cijo lived in San Diego for a while, and they were both living in San Diego for a while, and they put all the curriculum that way. And around the same historical period is when Gary Forbach, all these 3 guys were really good friends. You see a lot of pictures of Gary Forbach, Cijo, She's Well and About, and Cijo Emperado all hanging out. So I noticed when I was looking at Gary Forbach's DVD series, it's very similar for those first 4. Yes. Those first 4 look very similar. Mm-hmm. If what we're talking about here, and I've talked to looking and I'm not gonna say no. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I'm totally right. I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes, and we can talk about that. I'm not I'm just shooting the arrows, as Ron would say. Talking to Rick Kinji, I've seen some of his forums, and the 1 through 4 again look very similar. Me and Rick talked about how there's a few small things, but very similar.
On the pinon / Palama sets, yes.
Yes.
These other 4 are actual kata that are separate and different than any Palama set or / pinon.
Yeah, we're talking about Pinon. We'll be very specific. Pinon Palama. That's all of it. I'm going to be very specific here when I'm talking about this.
He just changed the name. Sometime in the 90s, they changed it. It wasn't that way before then. It was somewhere in the 90s. But we never did. So we still call ours Pinons.
Yeah, and I see a lot of schools do that.
Without the Y. Because I believe the correct way this is without the Y, and it's PIN and
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that? Made in Japan? That
I'll
would be
tell
a
you
good
what,
thing.
I'm going to tell you this right now. The word pinion, oh my gosh, how would I even put that in Japanese? We don't have ni, so it wouldn't be pinion. There's no ni.
No,
Oh, ni. There's
Pinan. Pinan.
pinan. Yeah, we can do pinan. We can do pinan.
Pinan.
We can do pinan. But here's the other kicker. I've never seen any roots to what we do to Japan. That's a whole other podcast. It'll piss off a lot of people, but I know a lot of the guys like to be Okinawa and karate.
Well, now we know that the Ka isn't really karate. Thank you, bitch. Right? I might have been
no,
so where the heck do these come from? But we're such a mishmash Hawaiian style poi dog system anyway. That does it really matter? No,
to some people it does. That's the thing. Some of these guys it does, and that's why I'm like, yeah.
You know, the straightforward block, moving back, and it's great for beginners. You know, I teach that first because it's trying to teach somebody pin on one, going all the way. It's hard. Just get them the right stances first. You know, so that's it. You know, just get their basics good and great. And if anybody has great basics, if you know your alphabet, you can speak a language, right? It's a matter of putting it together. No matter what that language is, the letter is still the letter. Maybe a little weird in Russian, but you know, still the same.
So let's get to one more section here. So far, we've talked about what, and I'm gonna say 21 grab and punch arts, weapons, defense, 21 also. Knife and club?
Not 21.
No?
We didn't
Okay.
have 21. We have 21.
Okay. But what do you require?
In the KAA curriculum, we don't. Now, getting back to my requirements, in my requirements, I also have Danzanru requirements, rolls, throws, locks. I also have my Derobio Eskrima requirements, you know, at the very least, the 12 strikes, the 12 blocks, doceteros, offensa, defensa, some disarm, some agaos. You know, you got to show me something that they have a working knowledge of a impact or blade weapon, right? So those are included in my requirements for my black belt test. Now, I do my black belt test way different than a lot of people. I don't have a panel. I have my friends, maybe from other systems, come, and they are holding the bags. They are the uke for the candidates, so they can feel their strikes or whatever, so they can feel their control. I will also have them teach them something from their system. In turn, now that candidate has to teach the group as well. So it has to show that not only can they absorb new knowledge, but they can then pass it down. Because I want my first degrees to really be able to go out and open a school and be good instructors. You know, usually we wait till third degree, right? But if I start these guys teaching and teach them how to teach at, you know, purple, well, sure, I got 7, 8, 9 years with them still to make instructors out of them, which is why it takes so long. An average of 8 to 10 years for black belt with me. Now, I've done a couple shorter than that. John Hoylo, very accomplished martial artist before he got to me, put in the work and did the work. I only have one that I've done it semi-Zoom. We still got together 2 days a week and Zoom 2 days a week. And I've done one that way, and I rarely take anybody from any other system, you know, or a throw off, or it never ends well. So I'm not out there seeking new people or want new, you know, no, you know, I pretty much have grown all my own, you know, with a very few exceptions. I think when you start taking people in and start giving out black belts through Zoom and all that, it's going to water it down unless they can get to you and you have to be on them. You know, I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's not impossible, you know, and a lot of people have done it. You know, Zoom is a great medium. I'd have lost my business if it wasn't for it, but there's got to be some hands-on somewhere, or it's not Kajukembo, because I'll say it again, Kajukembo is not a style, it's a mindset. And if you don't train with that mindset, you're not Kajukembo. If you're not, as my instructor says, hitting with bad intentions, you're not Kajukembo, right? Those are all Juarezisms, and it runs deep in my veins.
So a quick review again: 21 grab, 21 punch. Don's on Ryu rolls, break falls. Eskrima 12 strikes, knife and stick. Salam sets 2 and 4. Pinion sets 4. 50 kicks, punches, and blocks. Mindset, and you mentioned that now. Finally, what should they look like in sparring, in fighting? What should they look like? What are you looking at for? What is a typical
Survival.
survival?
Can they survive? They don't have to win, especially on the multiple opponents. So I wasn't trying to raise tournament fighters. I wasn't trying to raise MMA fighters. Some of them can fight, some of them couldn't. Some of them were lousy point fighters and knocked the people hell out in a Muay Thai ring. I wanted to work on their character. I think that's the best thing we can do for our students as an instructor is be a role model. Don't try and date your students or their moms. Those are two big pet peeves with me. We are in places of authority, and we can't take advantage of either or, and even taking advantage monetarily, accepting too broad of gifts or, it's got to be a working father-daughter, father-son, relationship. I think each one of my black belts I have very few that have left me on bad terms, like maybe 2 or 3, because I think they've always felt the love for me. Almost, that's all I can say is, I'll leave it there because otherwise I'll keep going.
All right. So
we'll talk.
yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to have to delete this episode because anything said. All right, so 21 grab, 21 punch. Dan's are real rolls and breaks falls. Eskrima 12 strikes, knife and stick. Salam sets 2 to 4. Pinion sets 4. 50 kicks, punches, and blocks. Character and ethics, and how well they fight varies per fighter, but you're really looking at someone who doesn't give up. Did I miss anything?
I don't think, other than also being teaching sabe, meaning the ability to teach as well. Not everyone has to be a teacher, but each one should have. I can say this about each one of my black belts. Each one has put in time on the mat, helping me on the floor, which is why a lot of my people never went off on their own, they don't have much of a downline. I only have a couple, of black belts that have black belts because they've all stayed with me. They teach for me. They teach with me. Now, I can honestly say there's a couple of black belts that are exclusively my sons. There's some black belts that are exclusively Martin Gomez's. John hasn't got there yet. And so that's all I got, because all the rest of my black belts are still with me or spread to the 4 winds through life, as we know happens, so.
And then for anyone wondering what the details on that, I'll give you a really concrete example. My black belt, I keep encouraging him to start his own program and gave him my blessing to do so a long time ago, but he just like training with me. He doesn't want to do it. He's like, I'm happy just coming in, training with you and teaching your classes whenever you need me to. I'm happy with that.
Responsibility.
It's a lot of, and he's got the teaching. He obviously, I expect very similar things. He can teach a class. He can run a program. He can teach kids. He can teach adults. He just doesn't have whatever it is that makes someone want to go start a rec center program. Or I say rec center program or train at the park, because expecting someone to open a dojo, man, I barely. I don't wish that on anyone.
No, especially on top of your day job, right? So
yeah,
either you're full-time and starving, or full-time and
no time. You're no time. If you decide to do full-time work and full-time teaching, you're no time. You have no time. You'll have money, but you'll have no time for anything
your business
else.
is 24/7.
Yeah.
Unless unless by the grace of God, I will say that because I am a man of faith, and you do absolutely nothing that you're supposed to do and somehow stay in business 40 years, there's got to be a reason for that. So, you know,
So those are the black belt requirements. I think we covered it in the time frame that I promised Rod that we would do it in too. Is there anything else you want to add before you go, man?
I think that, as always, it's a joy, it's a pleasure. I hope I've made your audience laugh, think, and give them some pointers for their school or life, you know, and that's always my feeling as a teacher. It's no matter where it's at, I'm always going to impart the wisdoms that have been imparted on me. They're not mine. They all came from somewhere. Yeah.
Well, I'm always grateful for you taking your time to come out and share your thoughts and experiences with me and my listeners. For you listeners, thank you for checking out Social Jello with Angelo podcast. At least one of these a month, sometimes more. And I'll catch you all next time.